We are on a mission to create the future of fraternity and sorority by transforming the way people join. And I know you are too. The people watching this right now, you're the creators. You're the architects of a new version of sorority and fraternity. You are the engineers of Greek Life 2.0. You're not stuck in tradition or history. You're visionaries. You're idealists with your feet planted firmly in today's very real reality. You're ready to do the hard work and change things. Let's transform our organizations. Let's flip some tables. If today isn't the right day, if right now isn't the right time to create the future, I don't know when is. Today's students crave a fraternity and sorority experience for the modern era. And this modern era requires fresh eyes. This modern era requires an understanding of today's students and their college environments, which are dramatically different from those of the past. This modern era requires a redefinition of the very processes by which we exist. This training is meant for you. If you're a forward thinking, solution oriented leader, this training is for you. And I want to start by saying, I believe in you. I so deeply believe in you. And I'm so grateful to have you viewing this. This is the hardest time in history to be a leader of a fraternity or sorority. We've given you like 150, 200 years of problems, the worst reputation in our industry's history. And, we've put the media spotlight directly on you. People are tweeting about you all the time. We're asking you to run these major organizations. We're asking you, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old students with real lives and real anxiety and real pressures and who are trying incredibly hard to get good grades. And we ask you to do all this now during a global crisis. Good luck. This isn't fair. This isn't for you. It isn't fair to you, the students, or for that matter, the volunteers or professionals who serve fraternity and sorority. But you keep showing up, and here you are again. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for that, especially in this moment. I can't tell you how grateful I am for you being here and for doing the work that you're doing to keep fraternity and sorority alive, and more than that, to prepare for it to thrive long, long into the future. We're preparing for the next 200 years of fraternity and sorority right now. And now might be the perfect time to reinvent it, to reimagine everything about it. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being the people who show up. Welcome to this little video thing. Hey, if you are watching us live right now, there's a chat feature that you can participate in. You can do Q&A stuff right here. But if you're watching this recorded, that's cool too. You won't be able to see any of that stuff, but we're going to keep plowing on. My name is Matt Matson. I am the president and co-founder of a company called Phired Up Productions and another company, our sister company called Technify. Phired Up and Technify, we help fraternities and sororities grow, if you don't know who we are. 17 years ago, I started these companies. This company, Phired Up, was the first one we started. I started that company with my fraternity brother, Josh, and we still like each other, and we still share ownership of this business, and we still love fraternity and sorority as much as we did then. We've learned a few things since then. And I think both of us right now and all the people on the Phired Up and Technify staff are kind of looking at this moment and realizing that this might be the moment. This might be the moment where we look at everything differently. This might be the moment where we truly transform the way people join. And if you want help with that, we're here for you. That's why we're doing this Phired Up Friday session. Thanks for being here. Hey, while I'm introducing Phired Up, it might be a good time to recommend that you pull out your phone or your internet machine device, and I want you to go follow us, especially follow us on Instagram. That's a great place to go. Just go right now and follow us on Instagram. I recommend that. That way you can stay connected to free resources we're putting out constantly about fraternity and sorority, how to lead it, how to love it, how to grow it, and all things related to fraternity and sorority. Also, if you happen to be participating live right now, our fired up friends, a bunch of fired up staff members are here and they're participating in the chat session. They can answer your questions. You have an army of fraternity and sorority growth experts literally at your disposal right now. All right. Completely imaginary, hypothetical situation. I mean, just go with me for a minute. Just try to imagine a situation like this. Let's just imagine hypothetical zombie apocalypse. Okay. Here's the situation. This is, again, just purely imaginary, entirely hypothetical. Let's just say that zombieism, let's call it Zombid 19. Too soon? Okay. Let's just say that zombies there's a global pandemic of zombieism all over the planet. Schools are closed, restaurants are closed, businesses are closed, everybody's quarantined. We're locked in our houses. All the toilet paper's gone. You understand what I'm saying? Can you even imagine such a situation? And there's an urgent cure needed right now. We need someone to take charge of creating a cure. Your job is simple. You've been drafted into service. You've been appointed with a special job. You have been asked by the President of the United States of America, President Kardashian, Chloe, to organize a group of the world's best doctors, researchers, nurses, scientists, medical professionals. This is your job. You've got to attract, select, and secure the best of the best, the absolute perfect group of medical professionals to come together and to find that cure. All right, that's your job. Here's the question. How are you going to do it? Let me give you some options. Option A, you might set up a table in a busy park with great big carved letters that say Dr. Z, cool brand. You might put those next to a table and hope that the most qualified candidates will find you and be interested in taking a risk to join without really knowing what they're getting into. That's option A. Okay. Option B. You're going to charge $150 for anyone to have the chance to be considered to be a part of this group of medical professionals. And then you're going to put anyone who shows up through 4 days of fun, but very intense, short interviews. And you're going to make sure as many of these medical professionals get matched up to a situation as possible. That's option B. Option C. You're just going to host, I don't know. The option C is like the chill option. You know what I'm saying? You're just going to host some fun medical hangouts, like just hangouts. You're going to advertise them on Instagram. You're going to tell any interested candidates that you're going to have the tightest group of zombie doctors around. Maybe at the end of that process, you're going to have a nice dinner out someplace nice, or maybe some steaks and cigars or something like that for anyone who shows serious interest. Option D. None of the above. None of the above. That's what the kids do. None of the above. I'm going to take a wild guess that you're going to pick option D. The people watching this right now are probably option D folks. You would look at all those options and you would say, no, that none of those are the optimum plan given this very serious situation to put together a group of the right people, an organized group of the right people to do important purpose-driven work. You're probably guessing that this metaphor isn't just about a zombie apocalypse. That perhaps none of the above should be the way that we look at the idea of attracting, selecting, and securing the right people for our purpose-driven organizations. If your job was to put together a group of the best people to do something really important for the world, you would do none of the above. By the way, as fraternity, sorority leaders and people who care very much about fraternity and sorority, our job is to put together a group of the right people in an organized fashion to do really important work for the world. And therefore, we should do none of the above. And as you think about attracting, selecting, and securing people for your organization, no matter what sort of type of organization you're a part of, what umbrella organization your group falls in, I need you to understand that what I'm going to share with you throughout the rest of this time is for you. Here's what I think. I think if you were going to do this, if you were going to organize this group of medical professionals, you would do three things. The first thing you would do is you would try to get as many candidates in your pool of prospects as possible so that you could be sure that you were selecting from among as many people as you could so that you get the right people. Second thing you would do, you would work really hard to learn as much as possible about each of these individuals and to build trust with them so that not only could you select the right ones, but so that they trusted you to take this risk and to go on this journey with you. And the third you would do is you would use some meaningful, smart, scientific method to select and secure the best of these, to lock in your group, to figure out who it is that is going to help you create the future of civilization in this hypothetical scenario, but in fraternity and sorority, I think it's the same thing. Let me share with you. Let me go off slide here for a second. Let me share with you what I think this looks like. I got a whiteboard behind me. I hope you can see it. I'm going to draw some things on it. This funnel right here is your growth process. By the way, from this point forward, I'm going to use the word recruitment. Now, if you happen to be an organization who doesn't use the word recruitment or doesn't really like the word recruitment, let me say this very clearly. I don't blame you. I don't either. You know why? Because when you and I think of the word recruitment, so often we think of option A, B, or C. We think of those other things of the past, those things that were built for organizations of a different era. But you're not building an organization for a different era. You're trying to build a plan that makes sense in today's world, a plan that makes sense in a rapidly changing world, a world that is full of students who come from a dramatically different generation, a group of students in a campus environment that expects a significantly different level of diversity and inclusion. You're trying to create a process that makes sense for you and your organizations in today's world. And so, when I use the word recruitment, I want you to think about the ways any great organization recruits, any great corporation recruits top talent, any great sports team recruits top talent, any great movement recruits more people to help advance the cause, because that is who we are and that is what we're doing. Here is your process. Here is your recruitment process. It looks like a funnel on the screen. If you can see it, there's a great big funnel on the screen. And there are three things that I want you to think about with this funnel. These three things offer you fresh eyes, a fresh perspective to look at the idea of recruitment through. The first thing is you got to put as many people as possible into your funnel. If you're building a recruitment plan for your organization, your first and most important job is to put as many people into your funnel as possible. What that looks like is meeting non-affiliated people, getting their name and contact information, putting it on a list someplace. That's all. And smart organizations build multiple pipelines that they have control over to make sure that they get as many of the right people into their process to begin with as they possibly can. So this is the first way to dramatically impact the way that we grow our organizations, to look at recruitment through fresh eyes, is to make sure that we're getting as many people into our funnel as possible. The second way is what happens when people are inside the funnel. And what we're talking about here is the way that we interact with our prospective members. This means activities, interviews, informational meetings, one-on-ones, events, all of those things. What we want them to do, we want all of those interactions to result in one key thing: authentic human connection. Everything that we do inside the funnel with our prospects should result in one key thing: authentic human connection. Fraternities and sororities often make the mistake of doing something different. We try to impress people instead of trying to connect with people. We try to show off. We try to show in every way how great our organization is. Guess what? People don't care. People don't care. They will. They'll love your organization. Your organization is incredible, but they won't care until they know and trust you. Trust is the currency of fraternity and sorority growth, fraternity and sorority marketing, and fraternity and sorority human connection. The cliche term might be people don't join organizations, people join people. Again, the cliche term might be people don't join organizations, people join people. All right, so the first way we can impact the way that we grow is by making sure that we build pipelines that we have control over to fill our funnel with as many of the right prospects as possible. The second way is to ensure that we're building authentic, meaningful human connection in the process. And the third way, this is where fraternity and sorority is special. We're smart. In our funnels, we have a filter and we have a release valve so that we can spit out anybody who's not right for our organization and make sure that only the right members make it into our groups. That filter is vital. That filter is what makes your organization your organization. That is what separates one group of three-letter organizations with another group of three-letter organizations. The way you filter your funnel is the way that you define what it means to be a fraternity or sorority member for your organization. All right, I want to do something. I'm going to pull my slides back up for a second because I want to show you maybe a way of looking at this in a three-dimensional model. A way to look at recruitment through fresh eyes using a three-dimensional model. First of all, we had this two-dimensional model, the funnel that we drew, where there are three places where we can impact. So as you're building your strategy to grow your organization in the upcoming school year, you're thinking about three things. Number one, how can I put more people into my recruitment process? Number two, how can I create a better experience in the process? And number three, how can I ensure that we only get the right members for our chapter? I want you to look at it in a different way. I want you to look at it again through fresh eyes. I want you to look at it by taking that funnel and I want you to flip that funnel over onto its head. I want you to look down inside the top of the funnel. Everybody see in there now? And you'll notice there's you in the middle, your chapter, and all around you are strangers. There's strangers everywhere. There's so many strangers on a college campus. There they are, all the strangers everywhere, all around you. And there seem to be some barriers between you and your chapter and those strangers. And the first thing I need to do as I'm looking into the top of that funnel is to bring some of those strangers a little closer to me. And I can do that, first of all, by making one simple choice, the choice to engage. The moment I make the choice to engage with a stranger, they come a little bit closer to me. This looks like the ways that we build those pipelines to drive people into our funnel. Those are the choices to engage with non-affiliated students. And of course, fraternity and sorority members have historically not made enough choices to engage with non-Greek members. In fact, we've got a bad habit of far too often only talking to people who wear matching t-shirts and letters as we do. And when I ask, fraternity and sorority members who are juniors and seniors in their chapters, make me a list of the names of all the non-Greek students they get confused because they don't know any, because we stopped meeting non-Greek students. We said we were joining a social organization to do networking, and we stopped networking, except for with the people we already know. But man, once we make this choice to engage, now we have a chance. Now we have a chance. Before we made the choice to engage, they were strangers, and we had a 0% chance to attract, select, and secure them. But now we have a chance because we made a choice to engage. What if we made another choice? Once they engaged with us, we connected with them at one point or another. What if we made another choice to care? And this is how we create trust-filled, authentic human connection inside our process. This is about transforming an informational meeting from somebody presenting information that I could find on your national website from the front of the room into an engaging, meaningful, relationship focused moment. This is about transforming a Panhellenic sorority formal recruitment experience, a moment in Panhellenic sorority formal recruitment from bumping and asking entirely predictable questions to recognizing that this is a modern era and it's a moment to look at the way we do things differently and to realize that the only thing that matters here is to make sure that the woman in that experience feels loves acted with. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. And we must transform our processes to do that. We must put care in the middle of recruitment. This looks like in a fraternity recruitment experience and a fraternity recruitment barbecue event, which is fine, by the way, but it's not fine if the level of conversation doesn't go beyond the surface. It's not fine if we're not willing to show what a fraternity man who is socially excellent looks like when he engages with a potential member. It is not fine if we're being as chill as possible. It is only fine if we truly choose to care. Then there's a third choice we can make. Choice to be vulnerable. And I need you to understand something. This is what brotherhood and sisterhood is. Brotherhood and sisterhood are all those shared moments that all of us on this know about and we've got experiences with. And all those shared moments are filled with one key ingredient: vulnerability. You think about those special, like real moments of sisterhood and brotherhood that you've had. During this time, by the way, have you texted some of those sisters and brothers who have given you those moments? Have you shot them a quick call or a video call? Just reached out to them. Let them know that you appreciated not only that moment of sisterhood and brotherhood, but who they are as a human. Sisterhood and brotherhood is not built in a day. It's not something that, once you get your bid or you go through initiation or you come out as a new line, doesn't mean you just get it from then on. You got to keep working at it. You got to keep creating it. And it's a really simple thing to create. It is just full of vulnerability. And of course, again, look at this picture. Look at this funnel flipped sideways where you're looking into the top of it. And realize that if we looked at the idea of recruitment entirely differently, if you're a council leader, a chapter leader, and you're thinking right now, the world has changed, and maybe that means that we should change. The world has changed, and maybe that means that this 150, 200-year-old idea of fraternity and sorority needs to change with it. And maybe right now is the moment to change. Here are the rules to follow. Here's your roadmap. This isn't about the best recruitment event. This isn't about the best presentation to give during an information meeting. This is not about the best flyer or the best way to table. This is not about any of those little things. This is about big things. This is about looking at the idea of recruitment for fraternity and sorority, looking at the idea of attracting, selecting, and securing the right people for our organizations to accomplish our mission, our important mission to the world, looking at it through fresh eyes. Man, I think we got a chance. I have a chance right now to not only change the way that we attract, select, and secure people for our organizations, but I think we have a chance right now to truly create the future of fraternity and sorority. At Phired Up and Technify, we talk very often about this idea of the pre-member experience. We define the pre-member experience as everything that happens from the first impression somebody has of the idea of fraternity and sorority all the way through their moment of full initiation and being revealed to the world as a full member of an organization. Everything that happens during that pre-member experience, we believe, is the biggest lever we have to pull in fraternity and sorority to create the future of our organizations, to create safer, healthier, better organizations. I mean, we can keep throwing policies at our already initiated members and hope that that works. We can keep throwing speakers and education about don't haze and don't drink so much. And, we can keep doing that if we want. I just don't think it's working. And I don't think any of you do either. And I think it might be time for us to take a different approach and to focus all of our efforts, or at least a lot of our efforts, on the pre member experience. Attracting, selecting, and securing more of the right people for our organizations, and changing the expectations of what it means to be a fraternity man and sorority woman before people become fraternity men and sorority women. We need to work really hard on that pre-member experience because it is our chance. It is our chance to recreate fraternity and sorority for a modern era, for modern students, for today. Hey, there's a slide on the screen right now, and it just reminds you about a website, phiredup.com/free. At phiredup.com/free, you'll find all of the stuff that we teach. We love to share free ideas and free resources like this. And you're going to find a bunch of other stuff. Some of it will be specific for your organization or your council. I want you to dig into the resources there. You might have a little extra free time on your hands right now, or you may not be quite sure. And if you do happen to have a little extra time, go to that website, phiredup.com/free, and I want you to dig into the resources. And I want you to reach out to us and contact us with questions you might have. Let us know how we can be helpful to you. We are literally a bunch of professionals. We've got like 25 professionals on our team who are entirely focused on helping fraternities and sororities grow. This is our job. Text us, email us, call us, find us on social media. We want to help. All right, I'm going to move to some Q&A here in a little bit. I'll see if there are any questions that I can answer. Maybe I'll check out the chat feature. But before I do so, I want to remind you about some upcoming Fired Up Fridays events. First of all, this afternoon, like in an hour and a half from right now, I think if I did my math right, recruitment is canceled. Now what? My business partner, Josh Arendi and Haley Mangrum, are both going to deliver a session like this, but they're going to be talking about digital recruitment principles, just in case. And also, a lot of people are already doing this stuff. I want you to tune into that. I want you to share this idea of Fired Up Fridays with other people you know. And then next week, next Friday, March 27th at 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, is Fraternity and Sorority Really Worth It? That's going to be a cool one about member engagement, especially member engagement during kind of a weird time right now. And then at 3 Eastern Daylight Time, I'm going to come back to you. You'll get to see my face again. So, that's must-see TV. Go Greek is not a marketing strategy. One of my favorite sessions to deliver. I'm just going to give you some good old-fashioned marketing advice when it comes to fraternity and sorority. All right. Thanks. Thanks for playing along. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for all the engagement. I'm going to do a little Q&A now. And that ends the formal presentation part of our time together. Let's see what questions are out there. I've got a few ways I can look for questions. I'm looking there now, so give me a little patience. Gilly asks, why no fired up emoji? Great question, Gilly. We're working on it. Let's see what else. Will this be recorded for us to share with our executive councils? By the way, I haven't looked at these questions, so I don't know which ones are coming next. Yes, it is being recorded right now. Look for it, on our Fired Up YouTube channel. YouTube.com/Fired Up Productions, all one word, I think is how you can find us on YouTube. Give us a day or so to get that up. Maybe check on Monday would be a good time to check for it, and then you're absolutely welcome to share it. Now, somebody says, looking good. Thanks. I think that was somebody on our team, and I appreciate that. You too. Can you give us an example of what exactly we could do or how to implement these on campus? Yes, Lucy, thank you. So the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to take this model and then the flipped over model, and I want you to meditate on it. This is a high-level training. This is about looking at the way we do business through fresh eyes. This isn't about low-level practical, tactical stuff. But as you look through this and you ask the question, maybe with your counselor, with your chapter, number one, how can I take control of creating new pipelines? Literally, how can I create new systems and processes and plans to drive more people into chapters? That is the most important thing you can do. Number two, how can we recreate, reimagine the way that we interact with prospective members so that it results in trust-filled, authentic connection, right? These are big questions. I recognize these are big, high-level questions, but they're the important questions you should ask. And third, how can we refine our filter and ensure that we're using thoughtful, quantifiable, objective thought processes to ensure that every potential member proves to us that number one, they are not a risk to our organization. Number two, that they are in values alignment with our organization. And then, and only then, number three, do we like them? It's okay to ask, do we like potential members? But not until we've ensured that they are not a risk and they are in values alignment and they want to do the job of our organization. Then we can ask, do we like them? Again, we got more free resources at firedup.com/free that would really help you answer these. For instance, there's a document with 60 ideas to drive new names onto your names list, 60 ways to build those pipelines. There's a document about small activities and questions P&Ms might ask. There's a number of those. There's a document about a pre-close and quality response guide. There's a document. There are two different documents about membership selection processes. All of those are available for free. Firedup.com/free. Thanks, Lucy. Lucy also mentions, especially, that was in regard to that last question. So, what a great point, especially without crossing the line of dirty rushing. I want to make a comment about the idea of dirty rushing. I don't know who's watching. I don't think I'm going to make anybody mad. I'll tell you what, I'll bet if the highest ups of the highest ups of our biggest councils and conferences that are out there that both govern and guide our student organizations, I'll bet if all those big dogs were listening right now, they'd agree. It's time for us to take a deep breath and look very, very critically at the rules and regulations we have around fraternity and sorority recruitment. First of all, I've learned that most undergraduates' council rule guides are built on false assumptions, and that is not your fault. How would you know? My gosh, as a student leader, how would you know? You've got like a hot second to be in your leadership position. Nobody gives you much training, and like you're just trying to figure out life while you're also trying to lead these massive organizations and massive councils on your campus. So I don't blame you, but it's important for you to hear me say most folks have false understandings of, or those rules are built on false understandings. Then the idea of dirty rushing is very much about intention as well. And I got to believe that, especially now, as our world is changing dramatically, as we're in a global crisis moment, now is as good a time as any to look at big concepts, big ideas, big intentions, as opposed to small rules, small details, and small fines and punishments. So that's my big rant on the idea of dirty rushing. I don't know if anybody took anything out of that, but for me, it feels really important for us to just look at everything through fresh eyes, literally everything through fresh eyes. Our plan, our calendar, our process, everything through fresh eyes. We're certainly doing it here at Fired Up and Technify, and I invite you to as well. Sarah asked, this isn't specifically related to this presentation, but my chapter is drastically needing some ideas for how to keep members engaged during this time of social distancing. Oh, Sarah, I want you to follow Fired Up on Facebook and check out some of our most recent posts and some upcoming posts. Secondly, check out the Fired Up Fridays happening next Friday on the 27th. That is about, is it really worth it? That is absolutely like built to answer this question, or at least partially to answer this question. Thanks for asking that. What's up, Jess? Shouting out, this is great. No, thank you, Jess. Thanks for being a part of this. I appreciate it. Thanks for your friendship. And for those of you who don't know, there are fraternity and sorority professionals on here. There are volunteers from all over North America who care about fraternity and sorority on here. And I have the pleasure and honor of getting to know so many of them. And I respect so many of you, all of you who join on something like this. Man, I have so much respect for the people who are out there doing this job right now, especially right now. I just want you to know if I could give you a hug without infecting somebody or spreading an epidemic, I would, because you all deserve it, and you deserve far more than that. How are we able to get our universities more involved in the recruiting and marketing? My school has been slacking in our eyes. There's only so much we were able to do. What a great question, Summer. What a great, great question. The very first thing I'm going to say is change is created through relationship. And All change and all influence will most effectively and efficiently happen through relationships. So ask yourself this question: who are the 5 people that, if you had a closer, more trusting relationship with, who work for your university or are associated with your institution, the group that you want to change, who are those people that you need to build a trusting relationship with so that they can hear you and understand you more? Most of the time, if universities are sort of getting in fraternity and sorority way, I mean, sometimes it's for other reasons, but a lot of times it's because they don't understand what we need. They're not living in our life. They're not experiencing what it's like to lead a fraternity, sorority, or a council, or an individual chapter. And so often trust is the right path to go to. I'd also say reach out to, in this experience right now, if you can connect with some of the other students or professionals who are here, or just connect with us separately at phiredup.com, and we can give you some more ideas and resources to help you work through this. Looks like Jesse Roberts says, how can I prepare my sorority for recruitment with the rest of the semester close? Great question. Excellent question. First thing I'm going to say is maybe not so popular. Don't try to do it with everybody. You're not going to get everybody to participate, and everybody participating often makes it worse. I want you to ask yourself, who are the most important workhorses, chapter workhorses that you can gather together. These are the people you trust, and they're going to follow through. They're going to help you. Who are those most important workhorses? How can you gather them together on a small video call? 12 people max. No kidding. 12 people is your max. 7 would be better. And that's the group who makes the plan. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it right now. Your sorority is going to be forgiving of you. We're in a wild, wild time. And the more efficient and effective you can be with a small group of people, and be as communicative as possible. Communicative might not be the right word during a pandemic. Be as good at communication as you possibly can during this time with your whole chapter. Keep them updated like daily, little videos, little messages out. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's the work that we're doing. Here's a survey. We'd love your input. Those are the types of ways to involve the entire chapter. But gather your workhorses and get to work on your plan right now. Don't waste a moment. Now is the time. Now is the time to think different, think big, and to really look at things through fresh eyes. How do we take these ideas further and implement them into a large community of Greeks, especially those who do not share our passion for Panhellenic unity? Emily, great question. I love this question, especially those who don't share our passion for Panhellenic unity is a really great point. Let me start by saying this. Your job is hard. I mean, trying to wrangle dozens, hundreds, sometimes thousands of individual chapter members as a council leader can be a nearly impossible task. So, first of all, give yourself some grace and forgiveness. And if you're not able to get where you want to get, that's okay. Make some progress. Second thing I'd say is this, uh, same thing. Gather the workhorses of that community. Who are the biggest influencers? Well, let's use the Instagram approach, right? Who are the not who are the biggest Instagram influencers in your community, but who are the biggest influencers in your community? Just like somebody would use to influence a brand or whatever by engaging influencers on Instagram. Who are the influencers? Who do you need to have a video call with over the course of the next 2 weeks to talk about a vision, a clear vision, a vision where you're communicating very clearly why it's important that you want to make changes and what specific changes you want to make. I would recommend don't swing for the fences right away. Hit a single first time up. Let's start with small but important and meaningful changes. I say often to fraternity and sorority leaders that pick one thing and be about it, but especially as a leader, pick one thing and only be about that. If you have 12 things that you wanted to accomplish over the course of this term as an officer of your council or your chapter, I need you to eliminate 11 of those 12 things and just pick one and do it really, really well. And that'll be your legacy. I remember as an undergraduate, I did that as a chapter president. I went to this leadership conference, and it changed the way I looked at the world. And so much of the message was just focus on one thing, have a clear, compelling mission and vision to share with your chapter or whatever. I went back and became chapter president and decided the one thing I was going to do was make ritual more important to my chapter. I was like a ritual nerd. And I'll tell you, I don't know if I did much else, but I did that one thing. If I tried to do 4 things, I wouldn't have done any. And if I tried to do two things, they would have been both mediocre. But because I did one thing, I did one thing. And that's a lot. And especially right now, one thing's a lot. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some forgiveness. Just know that we're rooting for you out here. Do you have any ideas for trying to shift the culture of a community rooted in tradition? Oh, Luke, I do. In fact, I want to do a whole separate one of these sessions, maybe on that idea of culture change or of creating healthy community. I've been. Let me just offer you the. I'll give you the quick thesis right now, and then if we do that, maybe look for it later on. Three questions: Who are we for? What are we about? How do we treat each other? Who are we for? What are we about? How do we treat each other? If you have absolute clarity on all three of those questions, that's where culture change comes from. I believe those are the three legs that the stool of culture change needs to sit upon. And if you can answer those three things, that's how culture change happens. Who are you for? Fraternity and sorority doesn't know who we're for anymore. We open our doors and we take whoever shows up. That's a harsh way of saying it, and I don't want to be. That's not me being mean. And again, I don't think that's your fault. I think it's too true on too many campuses. We don't know who we're for. We haven't named. We are specifically for these people, and we are seeking this group of people. And I don't think it's just people who are Crokies and Sperry's. I think it's a different group. And I think we know who we want. We just got to go find them. What are we about? We absolutely have forgotten what we're about. There are like 150, 175 national and international organizations. All of them are about pretty much the same thing. We spent the last 3 decades focused entirely on risk and reducing risk. And because of that, we've become really vanilla, kind of boring organizations that all kind of look the same, with a few very, very good exceptions. But too many of us are the average version of any fraternity and sorority because we haven't asked the question, what are we about? And answered it with specificity. And third, how do we treat each other? Man, this is so simple, but so vital. Fraternities and sororities, man, if we could lean into really getting better at answering the question of how do we treat each other, the little things, the little micro choices we make in the way that we engage with one another, the jokes that we tell or don't tell in a chapter, the moments we pick on each other or don't, the way that we lift each other up or don't. This is like the spiritual health of the chapter or of a community, but it's so vital. And again, I don't think we've spent enough time thinking about it. Hey, I might do a whole other Fired Up Friday on that. Let's do see if there are more questions. I'm just rolling through. How would you suggest teaching new members? Excuse me. How would you suggest teaching members how to be more vulnerable during recruitment? Hannah, that is a beautiful question. People are uncomfortable with vulnerability for a lot of reasons. Some people have been hurt too many times. They don't want to be vulnerable anymore, and I don't blame them. Some people are afraid of vulnerability, or they were taught growing up that vulnerability was bad or something that they should avoid. Not to mention the lessons that society teaches us and social media teaches us in 1,000 different little and big ways. But of course, all of us desperately seek one thing: human connection. We're social animals and we're desperate for meaningful, true, real human connection. And the only thing that really leads to real, true human connection is vulnerability. And of course, vulnerability isn't just about like our saddest moment. Vulnerability is about our willingness to express the real us, our willingness to share our baggage with your baggage. How do we convince members? How do we teach members? I think the only way to do that is through experience and then naming that experience. Create moments of vulnerability. By the way, not an event. I recommend not an event. Don't just make an event for brotherhood, sisterhood and say, oh, look, we just got vulnerable. I mean, you can, but I think it'll be more successful if it happens in smaller groups or one-on-one situations. And we name, this is the vulnerability that we need during recruitment. Why can't we connect with P&Ms this way? Why can't we connect with prospective members this way? Or for that matter, just with anybody this way? Because we're fraternity and sorority members, and our founders asked us to take an oath to be social and to be excellent and to truly be an exceptional, an extraordinary version of a college student, or for that matter, an extraordinary version of a human. They've challenged us to be vulnerable. This is in our DNA as fraternity and sorority. This is what we're supposed to be about. Hannah, I got 1,000 things to say about that. I'm just going to move on because I'm not sure I'm saying any of them that are helpful to you. But man, I love that question. How do we make these connections with strangers outside of Greek life when our campuses are all online for the rest of the semester? Well, Hannah, great question again. I recommend you tune in to the 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time session called, what's it called? Anyway, it's about digital recruitment. And Josh Arendi and Haley Mangrum are doing it. Check out our blog, check out our social media. We'll be promoting it. Come back in about an hour and 10 minutes, and you're going to get that experience. You're going to get a whole bunch of that answer. Recruitment is canceled. Now what? I just had Woody messaged me. Woody from my team messaged me. He said, that's the name of it. Sorry, I blanked on it. Recruitment is canceled. Now what? That's the name of that upcoming Fired Up Friday session. Any tips for making the formal recruitment process more values based? Yes, Morgan. I have many tips. And I'm not sure we can fit them all into this 10-minute segment. What I'd say, though, is that I'll bet you and the other people on your campus who are in charge of designing the formal recruitment process are as smart, if not probably a little bit smarter than me when it comes to creating those answers. I want you to really focus in on the three big questions, right? The three big questions represented in the funnel. How do we get more people into the process itself? That's the first and biggest way you can actually improve formal recruitment. And if we put not only more people into a formal recruitment process, but we put more prepared and informed and empowered buyers into that process, prepared, informed, and empowered buyers of fraternity and sorority will demand a better fraternity and sorority experience, and they'll demand a better fraternity and sorority recruitment experience. That is one of the biggest ways. Fill in the funnel with the new pipelines. I can't do this backwards. The second thing I do is, really look at things like, why do we disaffiliate our recruitment counselors? What is the actual job of a recruitment counselor? Are they attracted, selected, and secured in the right way? How do we create moments, true moments of connection, and not just impressing people? How do we create a story, a clear, compelling narrative about what fraternity and sorority is truly about, and share that with a different group of people so that it attracts a group of people who want a process that is deeper and more meaningful? Morgan, I got a bunch of other answers to that question. I'd actually love to connect you and anybody else who's interested in creating a better formal recruitment process for really any council. I want you to email us. Matt@phiredup.com is how you can just email me. Just email me, Matt@phiredup.com, M-A-T-T at Fired Up with a PH if you haven't figured that out, firedup.com. Email us this question, and I'd actually love to connect with some professionals who can dive deep into that into that question. I'm going to answer two more if I got two more questions. What action steps would you suggest to drive quantity when your councils host recruitment at the very onset of the semester? Oh, Jessica, great question. Oh, that's a really good question. So I've been working with a number of communities over the course of this last year to build what we're calling growth teams or recruitment teams. These are like, think about like Panhellenic recruitment counselors plus representatives from other councils who come together. Let's say 20, maybe no more than 40 key fraternity sorority workhorses, like the members of the community who show up and who you know you can count on, and putting them on a team and calling them the growth team. And their job is to do two things. Number one, it's to engage with the public and tell a single, clear, compelling story, positive story about what fraternity and sorority is on your campus. And number two, and this is the important one, their job is very important. Do very specific tactical initiatives to get more people to indicate interest in recruitment or to actually register for recruitment if that's the right thing on your campus. So I'm working with those groups, and we're putting together like a calendar of things to do late spring, even virtually. And again, check out the upcoming Fired Up Friday session. So things to do virtually, things to do over the summer, maybe in local towns or with key feeder high schools or with certain demographics or with on-campus events or summer orientation or those types of things, and ways to make all of those efforts focused on one thing: getting individuals to indicate interest. Inbound marketing. Fraternities and sororities spend so much of our time on outbound marketing. We try to get our name out there. We shout as loud as we can. We're like, go Greek! When what we really want to do is get names in, get people to register, sign up, give us their name and contact information so that we have a chance to reconnect with them, so that we have a chance to follow up with them, to build a relationship with them, to build trust with them, and to set expectations about what it means to be a fraternity man or sorority woman or a fraternity sorority member before they even become a part. This is another great question. Email me. No kidding. Email me. We'll dig into these questions and we'll send responses over the course of the next week. I love it. Last question I'm going to answer. What best strategies exist to reach the unlikely joiners? Oh, great. Or first gen students. I love this. First of all, I'm a first generation college student, and I'm a really proud one. When I came to college, I didn't know what fraternity sorority was. Like, I'm guessing 75% of the people this. So the first thing I'd say is it's not impossible. And for that matter, when we do this, when we're able to attract unlikely joiners or first gen students, especially, those students often become some of our highest performers within our chapters. Second thing I'm going to say, you can't do it in the ways that we've done it in the past. The ways that we've done it in the past have been focused primarily on waving a flag and saying, hey, anybody who's interested in fraternity and sorority already, come find us. That's what our processes on most campuses are built for. And they do that really well. We wave the flag, and if people are interested, they find us. Problem is, we don't do much else to seek out people who aren't interested. In the session that I'm doing next Friday, I'm going to reveal some non-Greek market research that is some of my favorite stuff to teach. One of the big lessons out of there is that 91% of people would be interested in learning about an organization on your campus that is about high moral development, human connection, leadership, and making a positive impact on the world. Is fraternity and sorority about high moral development, leadership, human connection, and making a positive impact on the world? Yes. And 91% of people are interested in learning about an organization like that. But as soon as we call it a fraternity or sorority, we lose about 50% of the audience. Not because they don't like us. I got other data to show that that's true, but because they don't know us, they don't trust us, and most importantly, they don't think it's for them. And so we've got to interact with people, with non-Greek students, in ways that we don't lead with our letters. That's an easy way to think about it. Don't be afraid to wear your letters. Well, I mean, show that pride. I'm a proud fraternity man. There's a picture behind me right up there on the wall. My fraternity badges are up there. I'm really proud of that. But we've got to lead. We can't think that showing our letters is going to be interesting to people who don't understand what those letters mean. Well, that was fun. You guys are amazing. What a fantastic group. What great interaction. We had hundreds of people joining us on this live event, and we're going to have a whole bunch more people viewing this video later on. I just want to thank you all very much again. A reminder, in about an hour and 3 minutes, according to my clock right now, we've got another one of these starting. Follow our social media. If you don't know how to sign in, you'll find out on our social media. All the answers are right there. I am so grateful for this. Thank you for being the people who show up. Thank you for being the people who are creating the future of fraternity and sorority. Stay fired up, everybody.